Welcome to today's webinar. We're excited to have you join us. We encourage you to participate and ask questions throughout the webinar. Look for the Q&A button in your Teams toolbar. Click it, type your question and press enter. We'll address as many questions as possible during the dedicated Q&A session at the end of the webinar. If we don't get to your question, don't worry. We'll make sure to follow up with an answer via email. Thank you for your participation today. Now let's get started.
Well, good afternoon or good morning, everyone, from wherever you are, maybe around Australia. Hope you enjoyed our new voiceover introduction by the well-known voiceover artist, Craig, who's also happens to be joining us today. Welcome to our October 25 update. Thanks for joining us. As usual, before we get started, I just want to cover off a few housekeeping things. So you just remember, if you do have any questions during the presentation, please drop them into the question box as outlined in that video that we just saw. We love getting your questions. It's a great opportunity for you to ask them. We've got all of the experts in the Q&A with us today. So a great opportunity to do that. If you've been to our sessions before, you'll know that we do include a couple of polls usually. They're great to get insights into how you're using SuperMate and how other people are using it. So please take part in the polls that we have today. And of course, if you miss any of the presentation, don't worry. We are recording it and we will be sending out that recording in a couple of days. So just keep an eye on your email. We'll get that. Before we actually really get into things, we have some really great news. You may have seen it already, but SuperMate has been recognized as the SMSF Technology Innovator of the Year at the SMSF Advisor SMSF Awards 2025. That was on Friday. It's we couldn't help but just have a little bit of a boast. We're very, very proud of the team. They've worked very, very hard and produce some amazing software. A couple of things that we are, really on top of. We're at 95% automation goal, streamlining routine SMSF process for maximum efficiency. Really trying to get to that managing by exception rather than manual. Plus, we have all of those amazing data feeds and a really deep ecosystem, and of course the wonderful Data Hero feature that we have using advanced technology, AI technology, to reduce manual handling and improve compliance. And of course, ISO security that is, to help you avoid fraud and just, give you peace of mind. So we're very proud of that. You can know that if you're using SuperMate, you're using award-winning software, which is awesome. Right, moving along today. As usual, my name is Eugene. I'm the Business Development Manager for SuperMate here at Super Concepts. Joining me today is Reese, our Manager of Product Design, and we do have our guest speaker today, Craig Stone, who doubles up as a voiceover artist on many famous movies that you would have seen. Maybe that's his moonlighting job. So he'll be joining us today to take us through a few updates as well. So moving on to our agenda. So Craig is going to be giving us a Div 296 update. Then Reese will give us our SuperMate demo. We'll be covering off some of our new features, particularly around the Auditor View, our Automic Registry Feed, and some other latest releases. As usual, we will have our Q&A session, and we really encourage you at any stage to put questions into the Q&A box, and we will either answer them as we go through, or we'll leave them towards the end. So really do appreciate you joining us all today. So without further ado, I'm going to pass on to Craig, who's going to give us a Div 296 update. Over to you, Craig.
Thanks, Eugene. Hopefully that screen is sharing now okay, and everyone can see that fine. We're going to just get started on, there's been some really good announcements and clarification around Div 296 over the last couple of weeks. This is a slide that I put in our last
SuperMate update that I included the Division 296. So if you think you've seen all of this before, there's a good reason, because you have. So the last line I've just put in there to explain that actually just because Labor had won the election victory, and expected the bill for Div 296 was supposed to be reintroduced and passed, it actually hasn't gone according to plan, because the government's been focused on a few other areas. So today, we just want to go through what happened 2 weeks ago now, when on 13th of October, caught most people by surprise when the Treasurer Jim Chalmers came out and said that from 1st of July 26, the tax concessions will be reduced for certain earnings for super balances above $3 million. We had already had Division 296 drafts, but because of the election, that got thrown into the bin. So the big change that we noticed was from 1st of July 2026. So first of all, it's been postponed by 1 year, and then there was some other good news. And I've just summarised it in a table today. It's not the main purpose for catching up today, but I thought it's really important to just highlight these changes. First of all, start date's been pushed out by a year. Secondly, there's two thresholds, a lower and an upper threshold, one $3 million and the second one $10 million. And the idea is that from $3 million up, you pay an extra 15% tax. And from $10 million, you pay an extra 10%. And obviously that's on top of the extra 15%. The other good news is that that $3 million or $10 million thresholds are going to now be indexed, whereas before they weren't. And also the big change is that the tax is going to apply to what's taxable income or earnings according to normal tax concepts, not just change in member balance. So what that means is that we're only going to be paying tax in the Div 296 arena on realised earnings, so realised capital gains, not unrealised capital gains. If an asset goes up in value, we were finding that we're going to have to fund a tax on that change. So the other note that we saw in the proposed wording is that there is going to be some consultation. And previously, even though the Treasurer has said, yes, we've been consulting broadly, no one's really seen that. So hopefully this has been promised, and hopefully that'll happen. So we have got the promised consultations. There are some issues that we're picking up with the facts sheet, which is really the only information that the Treasury and the Treasurer has proposed, is that they're talking about a total concessional tax rate of 30%, which is interesting because if you've got a fund that has got a large pension account, maybe you don't pay any tax on the first 3 million because the fund's grown in value to there. And so this is very misleading. And I raised this as a point with the working group that we have with the ATO around Division 296, and they were a bit surprised. And so hopefully that gets changed. But yeah, we're basically talking about an extra 15% between 3 million and 10 million, and then an extra 25% on that above 10 million. So it's not 30% and 40%, it's an extra 15%. If you can get that first 0 to 3 million at lower than 15%, then you've got a great situation being set up. Finally, just wanted to run through a couple of questions that we're running through with the ATO and in our lobbying. This issue around only taxing on realised gains, the question's been asked by a few people, is that those only accrued from the 1st of July 26 only? So another similar situation like a cost-based reset, like we had from 1 July 17 when the transfer balance cap came in to start with. Treasurer has agreed to that, so we're not really sure how practically it's going to work. And then there's a couple of other questions there around how are large funds going to be calculating the member realised earnings. SMSFs do have the detail for member realised earnings. Industry super funds, retail super funds, maybe not so. When is this calculation being done? SMSFs are due mid-May. Some of the other retail industry super funds have October and January deadlines, so it's all going to be a bit confusing from the ATO's point of view. There are some questions around total super balance definitions, and we're going to have to really look into that because there was some potentially some family law issues popping up to there. I've already mentioned that large balance pension funds. What is the tax rate? Is it just what was in the fact sheet, or is it going to be, as was originally proposed, the extra 15%? So if you've got 0, then it's actually only 15%. Yeah, there's a couple of questions about LRBAs, how they get included or excluded, but we can look at that hopefully in the new year when we get some consultation. The final slide that I've got here just outlines what the ATO's proposed process is, and it's very confusing. I'm not exactly sure how practically it's going to work, but this is what they've put in the fact sheet, so hopefully that is going to get clarified in the new year when consultation takes place, which is my last slide, last page out of the facts sheet, which talks about how the government is going to undertake further consultation. So fingers crossed that will actually happen. Back to you, Eugene. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Craig. Great updates. I'm sure a few people are breathing a sigh of relief, but still sounds like there's a bit of a few questions still to be answered there. And so now we'll move just onto our SuperMate demo with Reese. Reese has got a few updates for us. So I will pass over to you, Reese.
Thanks, Eugene. Yeah, as mentioned, my SuperMate demo portion of this webinar, I'll be covering off Auditor View, the Automic Registry Feed, which we just released last weekend, and other latest releases that have happened over the last month. So I'll cover off the latest releases. We've had 6 releases in the month so far. It's been quite a busy month, and we've released 83 different items. The main items I'll cover off first is the maintaining the legal personal representative. We've got a letter token relating to the feature, a new conditional letter that you can put into your report suites. We pre-fill more of the Macquarie Bank data feed form. We have administration start date check, and of course the Automic Registry Feed. All right, so legal personal representative. We've included a new relationship type for a member, and it's based on the concept of where we've got feedback where people had beneficiaries, and obviously with the beneficiaries, it's who's going to be who they're going to leave their money for the super fund to, or how is it going to get distributed upon death. But then there's the legal personal representative where the person hasn't passed away, but they just are unable to be the trustee of the super fund. So for example, incapacity. So we've brought this concept in so you can record who the legal personal representative is. If you get minutes, etc., you can record it in the screen. When that becomes active, so when the person loses capacity, you can record when they're acting as trustee from. So it's basically a 2-stage recording. You can record to say, okay, I know that in the event that this person does lose capacity, there is someone here waiting that can take over as trustee. And then you can also put in when they have, once they have become active as trustee. So I'll navigate to SuperMate now just to show you where this is maintained. So obviously inside a fund, I go to the members and I select a member. So I'll go to Jeff. Here's the relationships tab. I've mentioned before, here's the beneficiary tab, where Kylie is the beneficiary for Jeff, 100% spouse. But say if he becomes, if we need a new trustee, Yeah, sorry. If he can't be trustee anymore, and we need to appoint a legal personal representative for him as the trustee, Jeff might not want to use Kylie. He might want to use yeah, someone else, a kid, or or just anyone else. So yep. Whoops. So he could appoint Ben, and then if I select save, we have those details there, waiting to be enacted, and then I can also go, okay, well, Ben's now acting as Jeff, as a trustee for Jeff on the 2nd of October 2025. You still have to go through and in the details tab, you still need to retire Jeff as a trustee, and then add Ben in as a trustee. So to set up the actual trustee relationship, but at least you have it recorded when Ben did take over LPR, and you have that record. Okay, so if you're having a conversation with a trustee and you think, oh, geez, this person might not still have capacity, you know, who's there waiting in the wings to take over. Following on from that, we brought in a couple of tokens. We have the legal personal representative, a yes/no one, where in a minute you could set up to say whether, create an if statement to say whether a legal personal representative has been appointed on that effective date. And then we also have a table token which would return who the LPR is and which member they are now the LPR of. And the benefit of using it as an effective date, we've seen, and this is a request that we got to be able to do the legal personal representative and have these tokens, is because you can set up a minute or a document that documents, okay, this trustee has been appointed or this trustee's been removed. And in the case that a trustee has been appointed and another one's been removed due to LPR becoming active, you can also add in an if statement to that minute, and it'll automatically go, okay, this person was removed, this person was added on this date, and this person is now acting as the LPR for this person. It's quite a handy token there. The next item is the death benefit pension commencement conditional letter. So if you've been following the webinars for the last year, we've introduced this conditional inclusions item in report suites, where letters are only included based on a certain scenario. And we have one where all death benefit pensions commenced during the period. How this can be useful is that so you can set up a minute, you add it to the end of your report pack, and it'll just be a minute documenting that a death benefit pension was commenced during the period, rather than like a different pension type. So I'm going to navigate back to SuperMate just to show you where to set it up. So under reports, report suites, if I open up my final close report suite, scroll down to a letter. This one here is a pension, got a pension entity type. So if I select conditions, has the all death benefit pensions commenced during the period. I'm going to leave this one as all active because it's a account-based pension review letter, but it just gives me the opportunity to go, okay, I've got death benefits that commenced during the year. I'm going to add this minute or resolution. and it'll only be included if death benefit pension was commenced during that financial year. All right. Next item, pre-filling the Macquarie Bank data feed form. We've got a lot of feedback that with the Macquarie Bank data feed form, we were generating it, but we weren't pre-filling item 2, 3, and 5. And we had it, if you generate the bank feed form, then you'd have to type in the details yourself. I've updated the system so it'll pre-fill the information. You're probably wondering how SuperMate knows which details to put in. So I'll just show you how to set this up in SuperMate. The first thing you're going to need to do if you want to use the pre-fill is to go to the integrations and authentication section. This is where your ESIs can be maintained. So you add your ESI that you have with Macquarie here. Then the next thing to do is to go to the bank account applications, go to the figure account authorities item and select add authority. And this is where we maintain, where we can maintain Macquarie account information. If I go Macquarie, put the first name and the surname of the person whose account it is, ESI is, the email address, company name, and code and representative code. So if I look at this one that I've set up, I've put my name, email address, SuperMate as a company, put the company code and the representative code in. The representative code is not mandatory, but does help when getting the data feed forms signed and everything set up. And you can also set this account authority as a default. So when you are producing that Macquarie cash data feed form, this one will be the one that gets selected automatically. Close that. I'll navigate back to the fund overview. I've got the data feeds card down here where I can select. I've actually already set this one up. So on this one, I'll go to the data feed setup screen. If it hadn't been set up already, there would have been a setup data feed button rather than waiting on client. And I would have just selected data feed, setup data feed button, which would have opened this dialog where I can put in the start date that I want the Macquarie Bank feed to commence from. Just a reminder that with Macquarie Bank feeds, you can put a date in and Macquarie will provide data from that date. It's a bit different to the other bank feeds we have. For the item 2 we've added in, this is where you select the financial services company and the level of authority. So you can choose whether it's view or general withdrawal, which is the section 3. And then when you select the authority form, it'll create the form with all the items pre-filled. We also have, for the people that don't have a Macquarie ESI, we do have a SuperConcept software account with Macquarie. And so if you don't have a ESI or a Macquarie account, you can still get Macquarie Bank feeds and just set it up under this account type. If it is set up under this account type, only level authority is view. So it's obvious we're not going to get payment processing authority ability over Macquarie bank accounts. This has just been set up to allow us to get bank feeds for software clients. And so the software clients don't have to set up their own Macquarie account. Now, if I move back here, financial services, choose Reese, select the authority form, it will generate and create the form, which I'll just grab from my downloads folder. And you can see here, it's pre-filled number 2, marked as a view authority. And then down in the signature section, we've pre-populated the trustees, so signature 1 and signature 2. Just so that, and we got feedback on this one that trustees were returning the form signed by only one trustee, not realizing that if there was more than one trustee, that they were required to provide 2 signatures. So now that 2 trustees are appearing, 2 trustees know that they have to sign the form. Okay. Administration start date. We've had a check in to check where the administration start date has been entered. We haven't added this door to any profiles, end of year profiles or anything, because it's more of just a day-to-day check, and not everyone uses the administration start date. I found the administration start dates really used by when I talk to clients about it, to know when they've started taking over the fund. They might also have different checks in places of, okay, this is the first year. All right, this is the month that they started. This is when I should start billing from. So that could be a reason to use the administration start date. It's not mandatory, but I do see it get used just to notify when, hey, I've started taking over the fund. Right, so I navigate back to SuperMate. Obviously, the administration start date is set here under fund details. And if I go to navigate to the health check, I can select search, and I can see that this fund has passed. So it's as I mentioned, it's a door. It's a check that we haven't added to any profile, but it can be added, so you can run it as part of your daily or weekly fund health check. And the last item before I tackle the auditor view is the Automic Registry Feed. On the screenshot here, you can see I've got I've filtered it based on Automic, so we can see some of the what the holding rec screen like with the confirmations. As you're probably aware, we already handle computer share and link market, getting the registry feed. So and boardroom. So we get boardroom, link, computer share. Now we have Automic. With these 4 share registries, we basically can confirm balances for 99% of the shares in listed unit trusts on the ASX. It's quite a handy feature. I do suggest using it just from a daily or end of year, monthly reconciliation process. And it also, the feedback that we do get from auditors is that they do rely on the registry reconciliation report. And it does help speed up the audit, speed up the processing. I'm going to navigate to SuperMate just to, even though it's the only feature that we have released is the Automic registry feed itself. I'm just going to go through how to assign and view holding reconciliations, just as a refresher for people to be aware, if they're not aware, where to view and maintain it. So the first thing I'm going to point out is in the asset overview screen, we do show a confirmed badge when the holdings have been confirmed. And where this is useful is, say if you are reviewing the fund or getting ready to close the fund and you just want to look at the asset overview and you wanted to check the latest price date, make sure the assets are held. If you were to search, I'm searching 30th of September, but if you search 30th of June, you'd be able to go in, okay, here's my unit trust, here's my listed shares. Yep, they're all confirmed. I don't have to go off looking for holding reconciliation, downloading holding reconciliation statements from the registries, because SuperMate's automatically confirmed that it's done. Under assets holding reconciliation, this is where you can do a bit more of a deep dive. If I enter, so today's date in select search, you can see that I have a couple of red crosses. This screen helps us investigate why there's red crosses. Here, I'm off by one share. Could be because a sale was processed incorrectly, or maybe there was a DRP missed. If I select details, I can see here, okay, 30th of June, it did reconcile. I've had a couple of DRPs according to SuperMate, but the confirmed balance is 67. So one of these distributions could be wrong. I actually think that there was a distribution for the October period, which was 1 unit, and that is probably the difference. Here, if I look at the details, there's a 6 difference. There was a purchase of 6 shares. I probably need to look into, is this share purchase legit, or have I just not run a reconciliation, a registry feed reconciliation since the 30th of September, when it would have been reconciled. So that's probably the case there. The purchase actually did happen, but I just haven't requested the information from the registry. When it comes to investor reference allocation, this is where if I select add, you can add the different investor references, HINs, SRNs, registered name, postcode, select the broker, put the account name in for the broker. Once it's added, it looks like this, and you can also launch the broker feed off this screen. So if you want to set up a broker feed, you can do this. The other benefit of adding the investor reference and adding the broker is when there are automatic buys and sells coming from the broker feed, it'll automatically add the investor reference to that trade and helping you maintain your holding reconciliation. And then the allocate investor reference screen, it's another important screen where you can use this to allocate investor references. Now, all our shares in this portfolio are already allocated, so I'm going to go search on the referenced, and I'm going to unreference one just so I can show how to add investor references. So I will just allocate that to no reference. Change the search criteria back to unreferenced, and I can see I've got my IOO 6 units. When I tick it, the allocation date does change to the earliest buy date, and that way the investor reference will be allocated from the earliest point it should be. And then I'll select the investor reference if you have multiple tax packets with different buy dates selected, the allocate date will go to the earliest one, and then when allocating the investor reference for each parcel, the reference will get allocated based on that tax packet's buy date. So if I had another group of shares that were purchased on the 25th of the 10th, the allocation date will still be the 24th of the 10th. The one highlighted on screen will be 24th of the 10th allocated to. The one that was purchased on the 25th of the 10th will have an allocation date of 25th of the 10th. And so, yeah, I just select allocate, and that's how easy it is to allocate investor references. Okay. Now, for the main event, we have the auditor view. This is a feature that it's been heavily requested in the last year, and it just seems practical that we would move from creating client view for members and trustees, then creating client view for advisors so they can see their funds details in it, and then after the advisors, we've moved on to auditors, and we found that even talking to auditors, they've also been raising questions. Hey, I audit funds that are on SuperMate. Is there a way that I can log in, see the fund details, run my own reports? So we've built this feature to assist with audits, and yeah, it's been highly requested. As part of the audit functionality, we have included the ability for the auditor to see a list of funds, download the financial packs, upload reports, update statuses, review transactions, holdings, run reports, look at documents, and we've included the query functionality if that's for people who want to use the query functionality. There is a way to turn it off if you don't want to use it, but yeah, we've included the query functionality. Okay, now I'm going to navigate back to SuperMate. I am using I'm going to be in the admin view to start off with, just to show how to set up an auditor and provide them with audit view. And then I'll go into what the auditor will actually see and how they can interact with the administrator. For this presentation, I am using the administrator view as dark view, and when I navigate to the auditor view, I'll be using light mode, just as a way to make it more clear for people in this webinar to see, okay, screen's dark view, that's the accountant screen that I'm using. Okay, so auditors, if I go to settings, auditors, it's pretty obvious. This is where you maintain auditors, and you can set up auditor view. Bunch of the auditors, I'm going to open up Reese Hooper, SMSF quick audits. It's got the auditor contact details, the address, postal address for the auditor. On that auditor, we have the auditor access tab, and the point of having an auditor access for an auditor is that an auditor gets allocated to a fund, it gets attached to the fund. You say this is the auditor that is performing the audit. So this is the audit partner, but obviously there are multiple people that assist with the audit. So you'll have the audit partner who signs off on the audit, but then you'll have the audit staff that perform the audit or assist with preparing the audit, and they'll also need access. So under this auditor access tab, I've got myself, Reese Hooper, but I can also add other people. So I can select add a username, add an email address. You might note that there is a tick box to say that this will accrue a $10 charge per annum for funds using that Auditor API. I should point out that this $10 charge doesn't relate to Auditor View access. What that Auditor API access relates to is the third-party integrators that we have, so My Workpapers, Cloud Office, Caseware, those kind of auditor programs that we integrate with, and we send data through the API. It does not impact auditors logging into Client View. So if you set up auditors and they use Client View to review the fund and interact with you, they won't have the $10 charge applied to them. Okay, so adding adding an auditor, issue the invite, they'll go through the normal user name, the user account registration process where they have to sign up, create a password, set up their MFA. If they are an auditor that audits other sites, when you do add it here, they won't have to re-register since they already are an auditor on a different site. It's just when they log into Auditor View, they'll be able to switch between different sites. Then when doing a fund close, it's just selecting that auditor when selecting submit, and that will stamp that the auditor on that financial year for the fund, which is normal end of year close process using SuperMate. So whether they use Auditor View or not, that does not change. In the audit and signing screen, if you open up the screen for a fund that has the financial year closed, the audit status, you can change it to ready for audit. It'll automatically be not ready for audit, but you can change to ready for audit. And this is where, from an administrator point of view, this is where you can control the audit status and update it. What I'll do now is I'll just navigate into Auditor View, so what the auditor will see when they log in. Screen is it? I'll just reload the screen. I think it's going to log me out because I've been inactive for more than 15 minutes. So auditors will use the same login page that accountants and clients use. Their email address, password, those credentials will help identify them as an auditor and then log them into the auditor's version of Client View. When they first log in, if they have access to multiple funds, they will get a fund list with it has all the funds, fund code, the financial year, so the earliest incomplete financial year, and the status of it. Now, the funds that will show up for the auditor, it'll be the earliest year that has not been completed from an audit perspective. So I guess what that means, it's if you have added an auditor to a fund, but you haven't final closed or locked off the financial year, that fund won't show up here, but they also have to be the earliest year. So if Reese Hooper, he does the 2025 audit, and then the following year you use a different auditor, when you do the close and you allocate it to the other auditor, the fund will drop off the list and the auditor will no longer be able to see that fund. Also, if the 2025 year the audit gets completed and then the year is lodged, then that will drop off the list. Right, I'm going to open up the future super fund. It's the one where it's being audited. The screen that opens first is the fund audit screen. Get a warning to say that there are queries outstanding for 2025. Lists who the auditor is. End of year financial pack. So in SuperMate, in the admin view, when I have completed a final close and I generate the end of year audit pack, it'll appear here. There's slots here for the audit report management letter and the audit convention report where the auditor can upload. Obviously, an administrator can upload it from their end, but if the auditor, when the auditor generates it, when they finish the audit, they can upload it itself, which will flow straight through to SuperMate, recorded in SuperMate's document section, and they can also update the audit status. So when the auditor, if it was say ready for audit, when they pick it up to show that the administrator that they have started the audit, they can change it to add audit. And if queries get raised, they can change it to audit waiting to say, okay, I'm waiting for something. Initial audit completed. We've seen this status used for, say the auditor said, okay, I'm happy with the audit. Here's a draft audit report. Can you go get everything signed off? And then once you've uploaded the final signed documents, I will issue the final audit report. And then the auditor can update it to the status of the audit to completed, qualified, not qualified, say which one's qualified, whether it's been rectified, enter the audit completion date, select save, and this section here will actually flow through to SuperMate. Now, the updating the audit status isn't something that is mandatory, but if you do have an auditor and you do come to the agreement that as part of the audit, they can jump in and upload the audit reports and update the statuses to signify that the audit has been completed or that they are waiting on information. I can see that as quite helpful, quite useful. And from an accountant's perspective, it'll save a lot of time updating details themselves. Now, with the financial years that show, it will only show the financial years that are closed, locked off in SuperMate. That was completed in SuperMate. So say if this is brand new fund, 2024 won't have a tab because 2024 wasn't completed in SuperMate. Also, it doesn't show, it only shows the last completed one. So if this fund was on SuperMate for 10 years, the only previous tab will be 2024 because that's the last completed one. The auditor can then, say if it's a new auditor, they can just navigate to the 2024. If they're not the auditor, they won't be able to update anything, but they will be able to go, okay, well, I want to view last year's financials, look at last year's audit report, management letter, which generally I found when I was an accountant, that was something, if I changed auditor, that the new auditor would request last year's audit details and the audit report, etc. So I'll be able to download that, save them time having to ask you for the details. Other items in Auditor View is the assets overview. So this is basically exactly the same as the admin view. So they they can see the assets that are held at the 30th of June, whether some are confirmed by the registry or not. Click in, see some details. Have the holding reconciliation screen just to assist with the audit. They'll be able to jump in here, look at the different reconciliation process, see which holdings are reconciled. We have the transactions screens where it is view only mode, where if they jumped into the bank screen, if this was data fed, there'd be green ticks down the screen to show that the account balances do reconcile to the data feed. They can see which transactions have been manually processed, so they can query that. They can also see transactions that are reconciled. So this is a bit of feedback or request we got from auditors, is that sometimes they go, okay, there's that $40,000 withdrawal. What was actually reconciled with? Okay, it was reconciled to a pension payment. And they can do the similar thing with the transactions, where if there's transactions processed and they want to see what it's reconciled to, they can go view reconciled, see, okay, that's reconciled to a cash transaction. They can search details in the transactions to have a look at transactions in bulk. Also, the transaction sections, we've put the property settlement section where they can view the work paper for property settlements that have occurred, which will help with their audit, so they can see how the property was settled and where all the different transactions went to. They can generate their own reports. Once again, this screen, what reports are available, can be controlled by the administrator, so you can decide which reports the auditor can run themselves or generate themselves. Here you can see I've got 13 reports, a nice shorter list, rather than the 100 or so reports an administrator can generate. We also include interactive reports, so I can jump in, go into the general ledger screen, interactive report, look at the different transactions that have occurred on that general ledger item. It's quite handy just if they're doing a review, go to reconcile. Documents. So in SuperMate, when uploading a document, you can decide which documents are visible for the auditor, so you can use SuperMate as a DMS, and then while indexing, you can say, yeah, I want this one to be visible to the auditor. We also have like a document type setting where you can, when you're indexing the fund, it'll decide whether it's automatically visible to the auditor or not, and that can be overridden on a document by document basis. But say if I'm indexing all the bank statements, that will automatically be ticked as visible to the auditor, because auditors want to see the bank transactions. And the last item I wanted to show is the query functionality. So same query functionality that we have for clients, we included in auditors, except that the view is more from administration type, where you can see all open, the ones that are with the auditor, ones with the administrator, ones that are completed. So with the auditor, I can see, if I view the query, I can see that as the auditor, I've raised, yep, I want a property market valuation for the 25 financial year, and then the accountant has provided the valuation. Whereas with the ones that are with the administrator, if I look at it, I've queried why there was no accounting fees for 2025 financial year and requested an explanation. I'm going to navigate to the Auditor View query section, where from an accountant point of view, I can see that I do have these queries. I can look at the query, I can reply back to the auditor, and then I can also control the audit status. So say if I had a bunch of audit queries, I answer them all. When I finish answering the last one, I can change the status back to at audit, and then the auditor will know that, okay, this fund's at audit, it's with me. I'll open it up, have a look at the different queries. The final thing I'm going to mention, because I'm conscious I only have a couple of minutes left, and I still want to leave a bit of time for queries if it runs over. Query owner, this is something that you can set as a system default, where the query, when an auditor raises a query, it'll automatically get allocated to that relationship type. So if you in fund for funds, if you set up the fund accountant relationships or the CSM relationships, you can set it a system default where it's called query from auditor owner. So the queries will automatically get allocated to that relationship type in SuperMate. So if I had, in that fund we saw before, Reese Hopper was the fund accountant, and if I had it set up that this value would go to the fund accountant when a query gets raised, when the queries were raised by the auditor, it would have automatically get allocated to that fund accountant. All right, so that's basically Auditor View. I will chuck back to Eugene.
Cool. Thank you, Reese. Main one, I guess, was when does the Auditor View, when is it going live?
Yeah. So yes, it hasn't been released yet. We're just cleaning it up a tiny bit, making sure it's ready for use. But it should go live in November. So we're just doing our final review. We'll put up a what's new, so you'll be aware when it has been released.
Excellent. There was another one around something earlier that you spoke about, which was that LPR field. Is that going to be available in SuperMate Classic at all?
No, it's an item in SuperMate Web only.
Yeah, okay, I thought so. And then just a comment around agendas in the future. So perhaps what we should do is maybe expand on our agendas a little bit. Take that on board. Thank you for your feedback on that one. Really good. So obviously there's also, we have our on-demand learning and CPD points and accreditation. So if you subscribe to SuperMate, you become part of that Super Concepts family, and you will have access to our SMSF education services provided by the infamous Craig Stone, who you met earlier today. Cool. So if there are any questions, I think we've pretty much got most of them, but if you do have any additional questions, just drop them into the Q&A session now. Maybe we've got a minute or two, we could take some. So if you can just drop any questions into there. Let's just see if anything's come through. Just going back to the poll we had, the most response from 8 responses in terms of bulk data that you'd like to see coming back from SuperMate was around pension data. So that's great and really interesting. We will take that on board. Thank you for your responses. Cool.
Yep. I probably should take the opportunity to point out that we do have bulk pension screen. So it'd be interesting to know what people want to know about the bulk information from a pension perspective, because from the site overview, I'll just bring up SuperMate. From the site overview, we do have the pension section where you can dive in and look at all the different active pensions and seeing members who are eligible for pension. Once commenced, all active pensions, and then you can dive into, shortfalls, minimums. So yeah, if you have any feedback on what you want to know from a bulk perspective, we do have the question mark where you can send feedback. I do get a lot of feedback from clients using this functionality. So yeah, raise the feedback here and we can look into it.
Yeah. Cool. Conscious of time. Thanks, Reese. Thanks, Craig, for your input today. We have gone over time, so thank you very much, everyone. If you do have those questions, drop them into the feedback section, as Reese has just mentioned. Thanks again, and we will see you next month. Thank you very much. Bye.